really have to be interesting or make you guys feel more hungry between lunch and this session. The topic was digital trends and human capital management in AI. I just want to, following after Prabir, and everybody else, you have to build a good story to start the momentum, right? I mean, uh, let me keep it interactive, and then I'll probably try and give 2 to 3 use cases that probably can be reflected upon from a practitioner standpoint, right? So, case in point, I run a company, a brief profile of company. We have close to around 40,000 people. We are in the business process management world. So we end up losing 20,000 people. We recruit another 20,000 people a year. So we have to set up an organization roughly around 80,000 people, right? So that's the scale of operation. We operate around 14 countries, and we fashionably call it following the sun. So typically in a business process management, no, attrition is a big thing, right? And every business leader wants to understand why are people leaving, right? That should happen in your world also, right? Now, I will have typically a head of HR, let's say insurance, who will come and say, Swami, I want to do exit interviews, and he would be managing a shop of 10,000 people, right? I want to do exit interviews for everybody and give you a fine report, right? Now, when you look back, what does that mean? Is look, as a professional, you have 1,700 hours of work to do in a year, right? You probably will have all of us run with ratios. So you will have 1:300, 1:500, some ratio you are managing as an HR professional or HR business partner. Probably a 5-member team. You probably will have all put together some 6,000 hours of work to do, right? In that you have to do all your transaction, all every other thing, right? Now typically to do a very robust project, back of the envelope, you probably need close to around 1,000 hours of design, right? That means you involve the right kind of people, you do everything, you get everybody on the on the mat, do all your focus groups and every other thing, and then you design a product and then you try and implement that, right? Now, with 5 people, 5,000 hours will go only in this, right? The fundamental question when you want to embark on a journey which you say is digital or you call it AI, you call it machine learning, let me, I want to, simplify it and give you one basic fundamental, which is if you're managing only 100 people, you need to be intelligent. You need not be artificially intelligent. Right? You just have to use common sense, right? You don't need a lot of system and this thing. Where is artificial intelligence required is you have a scale and that scale cannot be fathomed by your human. Look, I worked in the analytics industry. Look, my entire career is 1/3 M&A, 1/3 sales and 1/3 HR, right? And typically I've been part of mergers and acquisition decisions with one of the largest companies where we acquired on gut actually. Even though all the data would suggest that, G cannot enter into water business, we went and bought water business. With the primary thought that we thought people will pay money for water, there will be purification of water, but that entire business of $3 billion went down the drain, right? Now, fundamentally, when you want to get into this journey, you have to first evaluate whether your scale merits that, right? Somewhere where you can simply, look, nothing is going to, cross over from your intellect, right? You have to have your intellect, you have to have your intelligence. And when there is scale beyond that, we probably, will get into artificial intelligence. And also, look, HR guys, we have to get out of myth, right? Whether you like or not, every employee is a top performer. He changes job every 2 years, he gets a 30% hike, right? They go out, they get the hike. So in a lifetime, when I look at average, somebody said 15 years. In 15 years, people probably say 7 jobs. In 7 jobs, beat inflation. That is nature, right? And when you're trying to beat inflation, logic does not prevail at that point of time. Now, when I get into the core subject of where can you use artificial intelligence, right? I mean, look, it's very confusing. So what we try and do in our company, right? The biggest problem, somebody spoke about YouTube and other things, right? Look, for me, the biggest impact is the guy is on Facebook, the guy is on Yammer or Snapchat, they are on Instagram. Monday morning they come, we put that big Alcatel machine in front of him. Right? There is nothing. There is one computer which will say, you can't do this, you can't do that. Right? And there is a big Alcatel phone which can only dial, and most of the time it doesn't work. Right? You go to a video conferencing room, 9 out of 10 times the technology is required when you have to put a presentation. I've never been to a customer presentation where the technology has worked. Right? But the guy is operating seamlessly with Zoom and a Google Hangout and he is operating, right? So first transformation is how do I synchronize the Sunday night experience to a Monday morning experience, right? You know, and that's a very important challenge in our organization. We are purely millennial. Our managers are also millennial, our employees also millennial. So we have no confusion, right? And also as an industry, you know, we were very lucky. Look, unlike some company where they thought machine is doing, some industry thought that my product is doing, for us there is no myth. People are assets, people bring revenue, people pay for people, right? So you have to focus. Second fundamental flaw I see. All of you are HR professionals. We do consulting for a lot of companies. The minimum average systems that exist within HR function is not less than 12. Right? And can you guys tell me which is the most used digital platform in your company? And that works. Every company it will work. Email, no, from an employee standpoint, yeah, email is work, you know. Leave management system. The whole damn thing works all the time. Because an employee knows how to use it. You put a complicated system, he or she will figure out how to use it. Look, that comes to the core point that usability of system is the most critical aspect of any digital journey, right? You guys are working in a digital economy. We work in a digital economy. So let's say we service one of the largest OTAs, online travel agency, could be Expedia, could be Make My Trip, right? You're having that experience, right? And you want to get responded in 2 minutes, right? You come into the office, you raise a IT query, the IT query will say, I'll come after 2 days. Right? You raised a query, that will take. So you have to synchronize the experience between what you expect your employees to deliver to your customer, right, towards what your employee will experience from the internal organization, and HR being one of the major service provider to employees, right? So I'll give you 3 conundrums where we've used this very efficiently so that we will, right? Look, we recruit average 20,000 people a year. That translates to roughly 2,000 people a month. And our hit ratio is probably at around 10%, right? That means, you know, we probably have to have 200,000 resumes 7th of every month, right? If there is no 200,000 resumes, I know my number is not going to get met, right? 200,000 resumes means you have to do Tirupati Darshan, right? Because 200,000 people have to walk into your office and get out. Forget anything. That logistics is a nightmare, right? Now, what is the AI we used? How do we simplify? And also, look, all of us can't live in a myth that we are in a bias economy. Look, for us, we all operate in large complexes. So there is WNS, there is Capgemini, there is Xerox, there is Accenture. The candidate, by our analysis, the candidate patience time is around 4 hours. So candidate wants to get in, have an experience of your process, get out with or without an offer, right, in a 4 hours time. Because once the lunch break comes, the guy gets out, the guy doesn't come back. Right? Because he's going, he's seeing, okay, Accenture is doing one more walk-in, okay, they walk in there. Right? And it's a walk-in, right? It is just whether you run a 10-ton AC or a 15-ton AC is the difference. And that too when you operate in Mumbai. Right? Now, where does AI come in, whereas digital comes in? How can you enhance the experience? Look, we have traditional processes and we have advanced processes. So let's say, for example, can we advance this input process back at home? So our onboarding system of a candidate registration process through use of video conference and every other thing, we had a very simple system, very rudimentary, that somebody else can finish the process so that the registration process when they walk in is minimal. Right? So our hiring platform, which is the test, we thought of, so basically, you know, we thought about, look, we all like resumes. Have you ever read a resume? Nobody reads the resume. So we said, why should you write a resume? You need 10 fields. We do keyword search. You go to your recruiter and ask, what skill chahiye? Okay, they'll put 10 skills in Google. They are all Google kids. You might be the research guy, but your recruiter is a Google kid. The recruiter will go and do keyword search, right? So the recruiter, and this idea came from a recruiter. He said, nobody reads the resume. Why are you wasting so much paper? Right? We said, TK, we need only 10 data fields to see whether the candidate has to be interviewed or not. Because you still have a selection process, right? Then what do we assess in our industry? So for that simplification took out 2 hours of time. Nothing paper handling, because tomorrow some issue will happen, you know, background verification, something will fail. They'll say, go get the resume. Resume nobody can find. No, we took it somewhere, it is in the process, it is in the shared services, because there are multiple functions we create to fight with each other. There is hiring team, there is shared services team, there is HR business partner team, there is learning team. So in this entire ecosystem, this simple process to say, let us not go with resume. Let the candidate type 10 data fields, and we'll take those 10 data fields, right, and assess them whether they need to be interviewed or not, right. Next is we partnered with a company called CoCubes, online testing company. What we loved with them is they told, what in and out test is 12 minutes, right. It is for me again trip to Vatican or trip to Tirupati, right. The guy won't spend 3 hours doing the test, right, and he might do 3 hours doing the test. There is nobody in the organization who's reading that test. All of us look at score and score to segment. So for us, this entire conversion to a 12-minute process, and then we said to the next question, what are you interviewing? Look, I've seen only 2 types of interviews, where the interviewer will not allow the interviewee to speak, right? You know, because at our level, when we go for interviews, it is somebody selling you the job, right? At the second level, at an agent level, you need to question core parameters, and these are similar questions. So we don't, you know, you're going to ask those 10, 15 questions, and the HR guy is only doing the process. We said the HR has to select for culture fit. You define the HR partner role, and then what we said is we segmented, and you come to our offices, you see 3 colored seats. The pink color seats are the guys who registered. Then there is a green color seat. This is the old manufacturing concept. The green color seats are the guys who cleared test. Then there are the orange color seats that they finished ops interview. The moment we know our orange is filled, which is around 2 to 3, then they go into the offer negotiation, right? And what we said is, let's not have every operating guy coming for interview. You know, you can automate that. I think that will be the future, that one robo can talk. But here we said, was certified panel of people who can interview. And just to give you an event, there is a friend of mine, he was a kid in Cognizant. He started creating interview panels. So he runs a startup worth 20 crores now. So what he did is he identified all the people, women who went for maternity, never joined workforce, put them through interviewing testing. He gets panel to Cognizant, TCS and everything on weekends. So these people will come, and he has 2,000 people on his rolls. So they all come on a Saturday, Sunday, do interview and get out. Right? They get paid $1,500 bucks, but for a company, there is no operating guy to go do the interview. So I'm just giving a use case of where would you use this in your operating, you know. Look, this is in our world future, right? 50% of the workforce will be tech enabled, whether you like it or not, right? And also let's understand, 80% of the HR workforce is not tech enabled, right? That is the conundrum you have to marry and baseline it. Because look, we all have relied too much on our intuition, because the biggest change, as somebody said, email, the biggest change for me is when I started working, SAP and BAN came into workforce, right? I saw most of my bosses lose jobs because they were not able to adapt into an ERP system and then to an email system, right? I think that was the biggest technology disruption. The next technology disruption is this. I mean, if you go and read the good old CB Memoria, which all of us studied in personnel management, we used to call something called the T-shaped professional, right? The I of the T was general management. Now the I of the T is technology, right? Second is, none of your millennials want to come to office and work. Now forget about working with millennials. They don't want to come to your office, right? So right now we are working where we are telling our guys, go take 2 jobs. Look, we are going to become like US, right? Let's say in our industry, the best possible pay can happen at an associate level could be 4 lakhs per annum. That will translate to 30,000 bucks in hand. You know, with all the market influencers, your average spend can go up to 60 grand. I can't provide that. How can I do is, I can flex a policy and say, it's okay if you go to McDonald's and work in the evening, I'm fine. Right? Go make your money. Right? So it's about thinking differently, how will you get a gig workforce? Now your policies are not geared up for gig workforce. Right? Information security, somebody brought up, right? Forget somebody in the premise. We don't know what he's doing at home. Right? How are you going to monitor that? And that's the system scalability you need to bring. Connected enterprise. Look, compensation now, all of us can boldly agree, is not a secret. Everybody knows everybody's comp in any company. Right? Because the moment the increment comes, my team, my associate will tell me, was Genpact gave this much increase precisely to this process, and that process got deferred. Right? They are far more connected. Right? And That you have to counter only with technology and information. There is no other choice. The last point is, when I call employee empowerment, Pavi was telling that people will ask questions. They're not even asking questions. They're doing activism. There is every issue. Look, what they are seeing in their social behavior is, I have this habit of going and looking at internet, right? Now, every customer complaint of any product is going to a CEO of a company. My AC is not working, right to the Volta CEO. So I don't know what will Volta CEO do, right? Now, that is the behavior that guy is getting inducted at home. So he doesn't want to interact with anybody else other than the CEO. My CEO, poor guy, receives around 400 emails a day. My full and final settlement is not done, right? And his job, he wants to respond, he responds. But you have to brace your that they have an activist mentality and an entitlement mentality, which is okay. You have to come to us as an employer that we are going to be okay with that kind of a mindset. Look, this probably you can't handle only with your human interface, right? And as I said, with 17 different systems that don't talk to each other, I've never seen any of, Rakesh knows about it, we work with a lot of customers. I've never seen any customer which has more than 40% adequate data of an employee. You can't do analytics. Trust me, if you're only knowing non-changeable variable, let's say if you say all married people attrition is high, you can't change their marital status, right? There is no action you can do in that, right? So for you to do some analysis, you probably need, we collect with 6 years of effort, we have 42 variables that explains an employee, right? And we have close to around 350,000 data points, right? That will give you intelligence, because that probably will tell me that if I have to staff for a building in Vikhroli, I should not be hiring them from Malad. If I am hiring in Romania, I probably won't get a guy from Poland to work in Romania, right? You might say Beijing and Shanghai are pretty close by, but the guys in Shanghai don't like to live in Beijing. The attrition is high because both are employment hubs. The moment the change comes, they go there. Look, this is where an intelligence comes, and let me give you one simple use case. We work for a large car rental company, and they had this problem. So in airports, you rent a car while you go in the US. Can you guess what's the attrition in an airport car rental place? Any guesses? Some guesses, okay. Close to around 100-120%, right? Because, and they posed the problem to us, right? Now, what did we do? We went and looked at the social networks in that area, right? We did build a crawler. We went to Facebook. We went to, none of them use LinkedIn, right? Guy who works in Hertz does not use LinkedIn, so you can't use LinkedIn. You have to go to Facebook. You have to go to Insta. You have to go to Snapchat. And we figured out, we did a zonal analysis. We said that, okay, we are going to do it for Boston Airport. Let's figure out who are these guys who are in Boston. Then one intelligence came through. We said, why shouldn't we look at somebody who's working in Boston Airport on a day shift or any other shift? So our targeted sourcing started happening from somebody who's working in a Starbucks in a Logan Airport, right? It's a simple lookalike profile of a very geography determination, which a model can do. That's what a digital enterprise can do. Now, that brought down the attrition directly by 35%. And we did that model for 100 airports for them, right? So that's a use case of how you can leverage, not much data. You're probably looking at a geography distribution of people. Then you're trying to figure out who's working within Logan. You're going to build a campaign to reach out to them and engage them to apply for this car rental company, right? Again, another use case from that perspective. Now, this is where I'm going to spend. I'll tell you, right? Look, AI and robots are still not used to automate jobs. They're used to automate tasks, okay? In my experience, I can be wrong, but basis various, customer interaction that we have, right? They are probably still used to automate tasks and not jobs. So let's say, for example, right, when you automate, there is a RPA, which is robotic process automation, ML, machine learning, NLP, and AI. Let's say these are series of maturity in your continuum, in your digital journey. When you do it, you probably will have cost saving. You probably will build user experience. You probably will improve the accuracy of your process, right? Now, when you want to get in the thinking stage, self-learning activity. So let's say, for example, all of you have background check process. It consumes a huge amount of headcount. A bot can do it brilliantly. We have bots doing our background check. It takes, sorts, sends emails to vendors, picks up data, analyzes. Probably we save 10 headcounts who are doing that job. I just need one UPS, one system to do it. Right? Now, what does that do to, somebody has to still read the background report and take a decision. But probably that guy is doing a far more enriching job than going and following up with vendors that have you filled up this form, right? That's where, why do you put up self-learning and better prediction. Value partner is, let me give you a scenario where you're working in a recruitment ecosystem. Let's say, for example, there is a recruiter bias, obviously, because we come from culture builds in some kind of biases. Let's say, for example, if you work in a country, probably like Romania, which is extremely litigious, right? Because they can say that he did not properly look at me, and I think there is a bias, right? And it can be the legal, system upholds it. So in Philippines also, the employee first goes to the labor court before coming to you. They don't come to you. Their method of operations is they go to the labor court and they come. It's a very normal practice, right? Now, in an interviewing thing, you probably can have a bot engaging with them on a chat, right? And the second thing is, all of us spend extraordinary time in this work activity called Pulse. Look, Pulse is something where we listen but don't do anything, right? Because we already know what is happening. Look, a methodical way for a bot to interact with 10 questions to an employee in a sustained fashion, right, is a very achievable feat. So for us, in our journey, we've always taken small bits, tried to solve them. Look, because unlike the larger HR continuum, there is no set practice, so you can really innovate, right? You can take a small point of view, go and experience that and see whether that works or that doesn't work and probably bring it, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time. One point on learning, this is what we experienced. Look, we are out of trainers now, right? So we have a training team, which is one of the largest team. We probably have 100 odd people. Look, whenever I go to the training guy, I'm 82% utilized, right? And he has the same, McDonald's menu. So we are still teaching people on negotiation skills, presentation skills, customer meeting skills, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But there is no orientation, right? How many minutes more I have? Is there a bell for me? So, the last part I'm going to talk about is, look, this is something which we did, which we are very proud of, right? Can I take one more minute? Is that okay? Now, all of you do performance management, right? The first thing I came from sales, right? I went and asked my HR guy, hey, what about performance management? They said, we are 90% complete, right? I didn't understand what that meant, right? Why should I have a process? So look, the entire workforce was going in the process completion. In a 40,000 organization, we were spending collectively 100,000 man hours on doing this process. And nobody is happy because only 20% get good hike, right? The rest of the people are telling it doesn't work, right? So we built an engine that probably looks like a Facebook, right? Which we said when we analyzed, we actually figured out there is a character called 1/1 manager who did not get involved in the process but delayed it by 30%. Right? So, in a very simple thing, our performance management process got changed to performance engagement. So, what we have is, if you are my manager and I write and we both don't have a very cordial conversation, the analytics engine or the AI engine picks up and tells the HR business partner, hey, you know what, they are having an altercation, go engage now. Because look, no HR guy reads the performance document, no manager reads it, and the poor manager doesn't even remember why he gave the score. So, if you are in my company and you are writing in the system, based on the tone of your language, it will tell you where the rating might land up. Because the way we work is social and the way we reward is capital. Right? And that's a fundamental difference, because you always say you're doing a good work and get work done, and at the end of the day you'll say, HR told normalize rating, so we can't reward you, right? This allows that. So, we launched this product, which has helped us tremendously, because the transaction in this product in 1 year was 3 million transactions. Right, and it almost saved 50,000 hours of productivity for us. Right, I just pause here. I think we have 10 seconds probably to take questions. Thanks for your time. I just thought I'll keep it simple and give 3-4 use cases. Thank you.
They analyze how they write this thing, or with the writing of this they analyze. But it might depend how a person has the emotion is. Sometimes it happens that he is it depends. Your behavior derives through your emotion, but how would you identify, and how would you deal with those kind of, how can you identify the performance of that person with that?
So look, one part, what should a performance management process do, right? It should tell somebody that what he or she should do to get somewhere, right? Which never happens in any performance process, right? Second thing, what should a manager know, that how are my peer rewarding my team or recognizing their team, right? So here what we built is, we built a word cloud. So if you are an employee, you're logging into the system, you get a word cloud on how my peers are getting recognized for what behavior, so that you can moderate your behavior. When as a manager I log in, I get to know what my bosses are rewarding my peers for, what my peers are rewarding that team for. Look, for us, it simplified the agility of communication from my CEO, because look, the most unfair question I can ask my CEO is not change his stance. Because things change, economy is so fast, right? I mean, we work with somebody like Rakesh, he'll say customer centricity, next month we'll say innovation, third month we'll say cost, fourth month we'll say something else, right? Now, traditional method probably will take 4 months for the CEO to reach the 48,000%, right? In that, the CEO says, I'm recognizing this cost conscious behavior. It takes technically 1 week for the lowest most guy to know that cost conscious is important, right? Because there is a system driven. That's where in a large scale, that's where you can use the platform. Emotions and bias is based on how you write. The AI engine picks up. If you say your feedback is stupid, it will immediately trigger a one mail to a HR manager that there is an altercation, go involve, engage. Then the HR manager effort is also simplified. Otherwise, they are having focus group to figure out what is the issue. So hope I answered your question. All right, thank you. We can take the question because everybody is waiting for lunch. Maybe during lunch? Perfect, thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. R. Swaminathan. I'd like to request Mr. Neeraj Agarwal to please come up. Neeraj Agarwal, Director, HR Shared Services Center at Dr. Reddy's Laboratory. To give a memento to R. Swaminathan, Chief People Officer, WNS Global Services, for that special presentation. Thank you very much.